All right, so guys, again, as we begin the second episode of our of 2024, we want to thank you guys. And you guys, please share these this video. Please share this is the Mills Social Talk podcast, and we're about to do a episode regarding experience versus inexperience. I'm not gonna say overdo experience versus inexperience. Right? So I don't know what question he has, but but we want to be able to kind of as this is the second episode that we'll be, and both these episodes are gonna be on the podcast.
This is just for me mostly. This is just to kind of like do a little kind of lighthearted segment.
So it's a lighthearted segment.
You know what I mean?
I think next week we'll get into more of a in depth, and then we'll be talking about what's going on at the Chicago School District and how we can help the kids. So again, the Mills Social Talk podcast, millsreal.com, MILLS REAL.com, millsreal.com. And if you haven't, you can go back on our podcast and see all that we have done and all the podcasts that we have looked at. They're listed right there. Just go to our website, tap on it, and you can listen. Or go to Spotify. Again, guys, welcome. And again, welcome again, Renzo.
Yeah. So I want to start off.
Oh, he want to start off. Okay, so I'm just going to listen.
I just want to start off with, well, as with any realtor, you have to get licensed, right?
Correct.
So for me, it was as simple as going online, looking up some sort of class. You know, John Horton, the guy, he was like, hey, I know this guy, go to his website. Okay. And I did it that way. So back in those days, in the, I don't know, was it 80s, 90s? Late 80s, early 90s. Like, so how was that? Did you have to go somewhere? You have to pay a payphone with the quarters. Ching 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 ching.
He's bringing up payphone, right?
You got a little beeper.
Well, when I first started out, I really I just walked into a guy's office, man. I walked into a guy's office and I said, listen, I came from an insurance industry.
Right.
And that was, I used to sell property and casualty life insurance.
Okay.
But for some reason, that didn't work out for me. That did not work out. It was...
Not your vibe.
It was not my vibe. I did it for 2 full years and I just couldn't have... I just didn't make any money.
Yeah.
Or I made money, but very little. Very little. And so I decided... I went back to work to a job I used to have, but I got tired of the job. I just felt like, there's when you know that you're an entrepreneur by birth, or by you got that gut feeling that you're not supposed to work for.
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you have it in your gut, I just knew that I needed to be outside of a quote unquote 9 to 5.
9 to 5, yeah.
Right? And everybody works for everybody else. So, I mean, if you work for someone, that's fine. That's no big deal. But just I had it in my gut that I need to work outside of a 9 to 5. And so I just walked into this guy's office. It was a Century 21 office. And I said, hey, man, I need to
get licensed and do this thing.
Yeah. I said, I want to sell homes. No, at the point of time, I've never sold a home.
Right.
I was on my job, and so I went ahead and and the guy looked at me and said, actually he was in his office by himself, and he said, if you help me, I will help you. And his name was Mr. Trivedi. He was an Indian broker. I said, okay. I said, well, what do I got to do? He referred me to a real estate school. Gave me the number. I called. I registered. But what got me is that he said, if you help me, I will help you. Now, I know I know that I'm going to work.
Right.
Because the job wasn't doing it for me. The job wasn't like, making it work. I was like tired of that job.
Right.
And so I said, okay, what do I need to do? And I just jumped in with 2 feet. And I went straight away, took my classes, took my exam, failed it the first time.
I didn't fail mine.
Okay, I failed mine the first time. I got like a 69, 68 to be honest, 68. I'm like, man, which two? Anyway, I came back.
You only missed like maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, I missed 2 questions, and I came back and
because all you need is a 70.
Yeah, I came back about a week later, and I said I got it.
I think I got like an 80 something.
Right. back then I just say, hey,
Could be lying.
I got it, and I don't know what I got after that because they don't tell you.
Well, what was your feeling when you passed?
I don't remember.
I remember clearly. I was beating I had never studied for a test. Look, I've been to college. All right.
You just came out of college. So
I just came out of college.
Your mind was pretty.
Okay, I've done
absorbent,
I had done some tests at that point.
Yeah,
4 years of college. I got a degree. I'm pretty proud of it. But I had studied more intensely and more purposefully and more passionately for that real estate test more than any other test I've ever done in my life. And so just knowing that commitment, plus it was like pandemic, so it was like the mentality was just a little different. And I just remember when I passed, I was beating my chest. I screamed, and then somebody picked their head out the door, and they told me to shut up. It was that bad, man. I was like, I was so happy. Like, I called my mom, I called my dad, I called my brother. I was calling everyone. I was so happy. And then, so his story about walking in the office. My story in this very office, I call. At this point, I had interviewed like a bunch of other like brokerages and all that, and I noticed that Leroy like lived nearby, or this office was nearby to where I live, and so called in. I came by, I met Shelly, and the next thing I was in your office, and then we just talked for like 30 minutes. And I think one of the first things I told you was, again, there's a pandemic. I'm tired of being a house cat.
Yeah, you did say that.
I'm tired of being a house cat. Like, all I did was study for this test and do all that, and I'm like ready to work. I'm just so ready to do something. But I also, like, similar to you, I had that feeling in me that, like, I've worked 9 to 5s. I've worked, what's it called, like fast food service, hospitality stuff, and I could do it. But like, I just knew, and more that I've been with you, the more I realized that, like, that kind of thing in me where it's just like, I am dysfunctional at a 9 to 5.
At 9 to 5,
you know what I mean? I would not even know how to
operate.
In that kind of environment.
And by the way, that's not a good or bad thing.
It's just a thing.
As an entrepreneur, if you know. Right. And so I knew up front, just like he knows, like, I got to get something that you can do of your own. Sometimes you don't know what it is, but you just know in your gut. Right. You got to work for you, and you got to generate your own income. And it's not easy. I think one of the things that I tell Renzo, it's not, as I've been through for so long, and I did not want him to get the expectation that he's going to come in and he's going to make $1 million tomorrow. Right. Now, I'm going to tell you something. In my career, I've seen one guy that does that. But that's because he has a massive backing of his community. And he came in and he was doing $700,000. He came in hot. But then he fizzled out. He's not in business anymore. Right? His longevity was like 5, 6, 7 months. Then he was done. But what I told Renzo, I didn't want him to come in with the expectation that you will come in today and you'll make $1 million today. You need to build. Like the Bible said, you got to build. And so I was pretty upfront when I tell him. Oh, he was too. Yeah, you were. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, hey, come in today, you'll make $10,000 tomorrow. No. Right. It's work, but you have to also apply yourself to do the work. I was thinking about this. I think you'd be proud of me. Okay, I'd be proud of him. Okay, let's check this out. He's gonna tell me a story that it's how, like, there's. I was thinking about this last night, man. Stages to success. I don't know if what I told myself, I don't know if I'll ever be successful, but I'll fail less frequently. Okay. I'll fail even slower. I'll fail even less. It's like I'm starting at -20. Okay. You know what I mean? I just gotta fail less and less until I hit 0, and then but it takes time. That, like, I'm gonna lose a lot. Yeah. I'm gonna fail a lot, get rejected a lot. And it's a numbers game. Yeah, but I have to get to a point where
there, and I can only go. You know what I mean? And that's when the dividends start adding up. That makes up for all those negative years and all those negative days. I'm
All right,
accruing.
so one of the things I explained to Renzo as an experienced realtor
Mm-hmm.
and him coming in new, this is one of the things I told him. All right, so when you come in, I hope you remember this. Based on what you're just saying,
Mm-hmm.
when you first get into the business, your bottom is here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you're struggling because your bottom is all the way down here,
Yeah.
and you can't think about rising there.
Yeah, like you.
So, but as you grow along, your bottom gets higher and higher,
Your flow
Right?
gets higher.
right? So some people that are making, let's just put numbers together, right? Maybe we come in, you made $2,000 the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's your bottom. But maybe next 3-4 years, you're making $20,000, right? So now your bottom is now $20,000. So you see how you've gained so much,
Yeah.
right? But you're working now. There'll be a time when your bottom is $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
and like, man, I only made $50,000 this year.
But you forget you made 2,000.
There you go. You can't forget you made $2,000 the first year,
Yeah.
but you still made money. So your bottom becomes higher and higher and higher.
My first year I made 9K.
All right,
So I never forget that. That's like the bottom of the bottom.
right.
You know what I mean?
So your bottom becomes high. So as an experienced realtor, his bottom may be my bottom is probably here. Your bottom is there.
Yeah.
Right.
You got 30 years on me, bro.
That's what I'm saying. So our bottom is two different bottoms.
Yeah,
But it's a
yeah.
matter of of consistently doing what you do.
Okay. And with the experience versus the inexperience, we're talking about bottoms here.
Okay.
We don't get into the specifics,
Okay.
but how was your tops like?
Oh,
What was the craziest? Were you ever at a top where you're like, were you going crazy?
I'm gonna tell you. What
I know.
No, I'm not. I had a couple.
Say yes.
A couple of tops, but I'm gonna tell you, one of my tops.
When you were at the peak.
Well, I don't want to say it's a peak, but I want to say when I felt like, yeah, I've done a good thing.
Yeah.
It was many years ago. I decided, I was buying, I think my first investment home.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my wife went to the table, and we were like, okay, we're gonna buy our first investment.
Okay.
We've already bought our home,
Yeah.
and we're buying another home,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I sat there, and we signed off the paperwork, and I'm like, wow, now we own 2 homes, right?
Right.
But that wasn't the tops of it.
Yeah.
The tops of it, we left that closing,
Mm-hmm.
and we went and bought a car. The same day, right? So I was like, we got to go get a car. So we left it, went
To the dealership.
to the dealership, picked out a car, and did that the same day. And so that's when I said,
Wow.
wow, I can't believe
You had the ability to do that.
the ability to do that.
See,
As
this is
a
the
bro-
thing. I'm young. I can't even. That doesn't even connect to me. He tells me a lot of these stories. He's like, "You're gonna get there one day. You're gonna get there one day," and I'm like, I can't even fathom.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I was in the same situation. I went to one of the real estate company right on I was on Western Avenue, and the lady, I was new in the business, making $15,000.
Yeah.
And the lady said, "Oh, I got an investment of $2 million." I'm like, "How you gonna get an investment of $2 million?"
Mhm.
I mean, I'm making $15,000 a year.
Mhm.
And when she told me, "Oh, I have like $2 million," I'm like, an investment. I'm like, huh?
Right. How?
But again, she had 20 years above me,
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't see that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, like when I tell him this now, he's like,
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea how am I gonna get there, right?
Yeah.
But that's just being an experienced realtor and dealing with all this and it's and just doing stuff consistent. And there's time when it'll be good, sometimes, but you'll have more good than bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'll take more vacations than you ever taken.
Mm-hmm.
You'll buy your home, but as a broker, but he doesn't get that yet because of course he's not in business.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't come easy.
Of course not.
I don't want anyone to think this is easy. This is consistency. just like you guys go and do your 9 to 5 job. I mean, we're in the office 9 to 5 same way. Just a matter of we do a little bit different things than you.
And I will say, like, I think for me personally, and I get people are in different positions. People have kids. People have families. People have, like, you know, people that they're taking care of. You know what I mean? Parents are sick and things like that. Family members are sick. Tragedies happen. So, but I'm in a comfortable position in my life where I can kind of, the financial, me not getting the financial reward immediately is okay for me right now, because the way my life is set up, I'm comfortable not getting too, like, that. I don't need that money immediately. Whereas if you know, you had kids, you had this, like, you kind of need to put food on the table. I don't need to put food on the table, babe.
All right, so
you know, so
from a youngin to someone who have done that, right? So when I started, I had to put food on the table.
Right, and I don't have to do that.
Right,
Okay,
I had to do that.
Yeah.
I had a wife and kid when I started out. So I kept my. And for those of you who are thinking about getting into real estate,
Wait, what'd you say? You and your wife couldn't rub 2 nickels together?
We couldn't rub 2 nickels together. Yeah,
that's my favorite.
That's what I can't remember. Yeah, exactly. So I had to put. So I, you know, this year I must say I'm proud of Renzo this year, because I feel like he's starting to get it. Right? He's had all the training.
And something happened.
He understand, but something happened that he realized that I gotta.
This ain't sunshine and rainbows, baby. I gotta get to work.
Right. So over the past going to 3 years, he's gotten the training and he's done. But now he's like, but I know he has it in him. That's why I'm hanging with him. So like this year, he's like kind of like, Lee, I gotta get this. I gotta get this. So he's telling me now that I gotta make this money. I gotta make this money. So now he's turning. But for me, when I started back in 1990. No, 1990.
So?
Yeah, 1990. I needed to work, so I left my job and I come to the office. Back then, this is the old versus new. You know, we didn't have internet.
No, you had landline.
We had landlines. We had phones. So we had. I used to use the yellow pages.
Yeah.
And the white page, right?
And
I tell him about this, right? I tell him I used to sit down in the office at night. In my office at night, I leave work at 3:00. I get to just like 4, and I sit down with a book, and I just call.
You selling?
You're selling. And I probably make 100, 200 calls per night.
Yeah.
But I had to make money, and but it grabbed me that this is what I got to do. Right, so I didn't have anyone putting food on my table.
Right.
My wife was working, but I need to work.
Yeah.
So I kind of sit down, and that's that's a discipline of just deciding that, you know, even though you're part time, you're gonna still put 8 hours from. And I put from 4, sometimes 9:30 in the office, just making phone calls.
Yeah, and I'm learning that. Like I said yesterday, I was here, man, and I was like, I'm not leaving until I get every bit of work-related thing out of my mind. I'm not gonna go. Like I was just like for the first, you know, because you know how long it's been since I went home and I still need to do this and still need to do that. Yesterday I was like, I'm not leaving the office until I know that there's nothing else I can do.
There you go.
And
you gotta get all that stuff out of you.
Yeah, I was just like, I did it. I did everything I possibly could.
Isn't it a great feeling?
Yes, bro. I was able to play video games and not stress. Like it's great.
But that's you have to have a discipline when you're in this business, right? Because people, it's not like people want to have a full time, but if you really want to become a realtor, you gotta get in there and you gotta do it.
And you know, it may not be phone books today,
right? Yeah,
it's you know online leads or CRM or leads coming in.
It's totally different,
right? It may not be phone books. But you still have to make those phone calls.
You got to make those phone calls.
That hasn't changed, at least for
no, unless you're paying someone to make the phone calls for you.
Yeah, I got that money. So.
You got to connect. So you still got to discipline yourself to say, "Hey, I got to get this done. I got to get this done."
Right.
So when you leave the office yesterday, you were like, "Man, I
did it. I exhausted everything I needed to do that day for my clients," and I said. Yeah,
but you got it done.
I got it done. I was exhausted.
So this is just Renzo growing right? Growing in the industry to say, hey man, I will make my goal. So I'm gonna keep the theme. So the business plan for our office. So he has the responsibility of providing me with his business plan.
And
I gave him a template. And so we got to meet that business plan. We have
a 90-day business plan, right?
I have a year goal for the office. So he needs to have every 90 days. I want to see what have you done? Have you closed? What's your lead? So I'm just putting him in a position where, as he tell me, I got to be accountable. So I'm just keeping him as a newbie. I'm trying to keep him accountable to making money for himself, right?
And for the new realtors out there, I ask to be held accountable. It's not just I'm looking for you, Leroy, to you try to find a mentor, and that mentor is going to do all the work for you. Like it's like Kobe demanded just as much from his coach as much as his coach demanded from him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I always go back to this thing where Eric Spoelstra and the Heat, Dwayne Wade was losing a game. And Dwayne Wade looked at Spoelstra, and Spoelstra said, "I can't save you."
Right.
Like at some point, like
you got to do it yourself.
I got to do it myself. And again, something happened to me this year, and I'm just like,
well, you're gonna have tragedy in your life, and you realize that you got to stand up.
Yeah.
Right. And you got to stand.
There's a certain fire that's lit under me. That's just
in any business, you got to be. Like I tell Renzo all the time, you got to be hungry. You can't just come into the business and not being hungry, right? You have to stay hungry. If you stay hungry, you'll always be successful.
And I'm so hungry because someone stole food from my table.
Exactly. So it makes it even more hungry.
I'm starving.
You're starving right now. So you gotta stay hungry. If you stay hungry, you'll be okay. But you gotta stay hungry in this business till eventually, even though you can provide, you're hungry. But it's not like if you don't make a deal, you'll fall down, right? You're hungry because you love the business side of it. You love the deal with the people. So you stay hungry, but it doesn't mean that you don't have food. You have lots of food, but you're still hungry, right? So it's just building your career to a point where you could be like, okay, I've done so much in my life. I have created, I've built, my wealth is so much, that kind of stuff.
So let me ask you this, because you and I kind of came into the industry in different ways. Of course, you got a family, I don't. But passion for our job, passion for our career, right? Like, I find passion because as people can tell, I love talking to people. I love helping people. I love, like, the day-to-day and, like, interacting with our clients, I think is, like, the best thing. Now, if I didn't have to spend money on gas, that would be great. But, but in terms of helping people, I love that about my job, and that's where I find the passion. And I love when people say thank you. I love when I know I've done a good job and people are rewarding me for doing a good job, whether that's like verbally or through gesture, right? How did you find your passion in the game?
One word: service. So my passion is service. I am service oriented. I think I told you this story. I'm gonna share it with the audience. A couple years ago, I was doing it was a $2 million deal, and I was selling a hotel for one of my clients, and it's hotel and commercial is different from residential. So, but I have the experience of selling a hotel because I came from a commercial background with my first company. And I remember I am meeting with folks. I am meeting them at their home. I'm having dinner with them. I'm downtown at the because it was at the building at the Department of Building. I'm meeting with city lawyers. I'm doing projections, and I'm negotiating lots of different things. And I'm in a center. I had a guy that was with me, very inexperienced, and I taught him a lot about it at the time. So I'm teaching this one guy. I would meet him in my office on Sundays. Some Sundays we got to do this and this and this and this and this and this, right? So I have all these things that I'm doing, right? And the passion was just the fact that I want to see this deal come together. Now, at the time, Yeah, I know I'm making lots of money, but that wasn't the game. The goal was the fact that I can bring one group and another group together. I bring those two groups together, and I put them in a position where they'll consummate a deal, and we're transferring millions of dollars across the table.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, I think I told you, when the deal was done, I was disappointed.
Why? I've heard this.
They gave me a big check, like here's a big check.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm done. Right. So that was my passion, to bring them together and notice that the seller got what he wants, the buyer got what they want, and the check in the middle was just whatever the check is.
Yeah.
But when I bring it together, I mean, I walked around with the check, didn't want to cash it.
Right.
It was that big. Right. That was my first huge check, and I walked around but the disappointment was like, oh my gosh,
that's
the work is over.
That's what I look for in kind of my interactions with clients. That's that feeling exactly, where it doesn't feel like work anymore.
No, it's not.
I remember my personal friend Brian, right? I helped him buy a condo, and I remember walking into that condo. We had looked at so much stuff, but when we looked at one condo that he ended up buying, we were like, that's it. We had a smile on our face.
Yeah.
We're like, that's it. And then we got to closing. We went out for dinner. I was just like, this is it. This is what I that moment where you're like, we got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And your client is happy. I'm happy for my client. Everything's all good. Of course, and it really wasn't. I mean, of course, I was happy for the check, but I was working with my friend, and I was just so happy to just get this
done. That's
done.
a success.
Right.
That's success. When you have someone achieve their goal.
Right.
That's success.
Right. And one thing I do admire about you, and that when I kind of look up to you about, is being a connector of people. I definitely want to be like that one day, where I'm like, oh, I know this guy.
Yeah.
You're doing this? Let me call that guy. You know what I mean? And I see you do that all the time. And I would hence why you get so many guests on this podcast, right? You connector of people. So I'm taking your cue on that, and I want to be kind of like that too, where I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Yeah. And of course that'll come with time. More people in my Rolodex, you feel me?
It does come with time.
Yeah, so but that's something I do like. I think we're very similar in that kind of aspect.
When it talks to being hungry, I'm going to give you the next example, old versus new, because as we run out of time. I want to say every realtor had maps on their desk.
I had GPS.
We got GPS now. When I came into the business, you got 4, 5, 6 maps. If
you got lost.
If you work in Morgan Grove, you can have a Morgan Grove map. If you work in Skokie, you know what I'm saying? And I remember years. I mean, I'm at night, and I'm looking around like, where am I going? Make a left here. The youngins don't know how to do that.
Yeah, they're like 55th Street versus 55th Place. Like, where's that?
So a lot of youngins don't know how to let's pull this map. Where are we going?
Yeah.
We go here, we go there, and that we learn that.
Right, and you guys didn't. We have a thing. So for the people who don't know, we have a thing called Showing Time, which is like an app where where all realtors kind of all communicate with each other to kind of coordinate showings and stuff. Like, okay, here's select this slot, show up for this slot. Very easy. You just follow the app, right? Like kind of like an Airbnb or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't imagine. I'll be there at 12:30.
Not only
you can't make it at 12:30. Oh, well, I got a thing at the.
The other day we have these thick books that they drop us off at the office.
Was that almanacs?
No. The real estate books, they drop us off every week. I think every 2 weeks. They drop these books off, right? And so you can't wait for the book to come in to find out what's on the market.
Oh, that's our listings?
Yeah. I never told you about that, right?
The listings came in a magazine. That's so funny.
A book about 2 inch thick.
Wow. So how long did it take? So I'm assuming then we sell houses faster now than we.
So it was selling faster back then, but listen, a 2 inch book, you open the book. And now, and your client want to be Morgan Grove, right? So you open the book and you're like, oh man, there's a house in Morgan Grove. You call? Oh, it's sold. You know what I'm saying? And you have to look to see what's in the market. Because what happened is, the MLS used to go out, take the picture, and then they go ahead and do it, right? They go ahead and right?
Put it in a book.
They put it in a book, this big 2-inch book, and you look at it and you're like, okay. And that's how you find out what's for sale.
Yeah, so your clients had to really come in the office to look at this book.
You have to come in, or you call them and you say, okay, this, and then you meet them.
So
but
when did the online stuff start? Like 2000?
1997.
You know, the big bucks.
96.
Macintosh.
I think the MLS started because I remember we were in our office. I think 1996.
Windows Vista.
Because I remember, I remember they brought and then the fax machine.
Yeah.
Used to come in a roll.
Yeah. I remember my dad.
And then sometimes the ink just kind of fell off. But it was a roll.
Right.
So anyway, guys, we were just having fun today on our podcast, and we were just having fun.
Yeah.
And so we just want to thank you guys as these first two episodes are pretty light. And just chit chat. I mean, I'm sure we'll do. We may come up with a couple more, but
if you guys have any recommendations on what we should talk about, I mean,
if you're listening, you want us to talk about something, please let us know. And I think we've talked enough for one day.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you. And go to podcast, share the video and go out to Spotify. And then just, we're trying to grow the company. If you're planning on being in the business, you want to learn the business, please reach out to us. Don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we will guide you into the business, and we'll help you get leads, and we will help you move. And as you help us grow, then we will help you grow. So we're really pushing forward this year to gain a couple, to bring together a couple more realtors who has that entrepreneurial spirit, and more than entrepreneurial spirit, that service that they want to serve the community and help the community to get their home and into whether you want to lease, sell, commercial, we'll train you, and I'll be your personal trainer doing all that for you. So guys, thank you again. I'm glad you guys stayed on. For those of you who stayed on, and if there's any questions, we don't have anyone on the background because this is me and Renzo here today.
Yeah.
So leave us a message and we'll respond appropriately.
No one ever sees me.